the one thing that's crazy about the playing the position side of the field and now getting out of the game and seeing, like, when you're playing, there's so many things that you think, oh, well, this isn't preparing later in life. But the trials that you face teach you so many things in the game of baseball. And mindset is everything. So if you're going up there and you're thinking that I'm going to strike out, well, guess what? You're going to strike out. Like, if that's all you're thinking.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. Like, whatever you put out there is going to come back. And if you're sitting there saying, oh, this guy's throwing hard, this guy, is the best pitcher in the world. Well, you want to know what? Somebody's hitting him. So if somebody's hitting him, you can hit him. So mindset's everything. At 15 minutes before every game, I'm watching something. I'm watching positive mindset. I'm watching a video that gets me going. Like, I want to fill that up. I want to get that mindset of nobody can beat me. Because when you step into that box, when you step on that mound, you have to know in your head that you are better than that person in the box.
Let's talk about you wrap up your senior season. When you first report to the Yankees organization, talk to us a little about that as an 18-year-old young man, virtually still on your own.
Yes, I was completely on my own then.
So take us through that process, where you had to report and what that was like for you.
I went down to Tampa, Florida in late August of 2009. Attended my first little camp. I think I played 3 games in the GCL, and that was the end of the season because you could still sign late then. So I didn't sign until, last week of August or first week of September. So season was already kind of over. You got down there, and, that was at a time that right after I had signed, I was continuing the same thing and I was doing in high school, going out, drinking, having fun, what I considered just to be teenage fun. Either way, it was before legal drinking age and whatnot. So once I got to Tampa, I was doing the exact same thing, just on a larger schedule now or on a larger platform, knowing all the bar owners, knowing all this. And I'm 19-year-old thinking that I'm the coolest thing in the world because here I am getting anyone and myself into anywhere I want to go in Tampa.
At that time, did the Yankees, to bring in a high school player, did they have a mentor assigned to you or an assistant coach or somebody to talk with you about some of the challenges that you might be faced now as a professional athlete?
Did, yeah. Several, actually. Chris Passarella, Ron Dock, and actually Chad Bullock, who's actually the mental conditioning coach for the Dallas Cowboys as well. So, yeah, I had the people there, and, they're giving me the books. And, just to put it where my head was right after I signed, I was a bouncer the first week that I was in Tampa, and I bounced for a year and a half after signing, and I remember the day that the Yankees found out about it to this day. So
you sign a $2.2 million signing bonus, and you take a job 1 weekend as a bouncer?
Yeah. Sadly, my thought process was, well, I'm already going to drink, so I might as well get paid to do it. So I was a bouncer. I was out 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I finally got to the point in my first spring training where I missed like 3 or 4 games in the first 2 weeks just not waking up. And it got to where Ron Dock would end up showing up at my house, waking me up. So actually after that, I had to attend AA meetings, which is, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. So I had to attend the AA meetings, and I don't know if it was necessarily a problem that I had. It was just kind of a mindset of I'm invincible. Nobody can touch me. This was my mindset, and I'm not going to get away from that.
What could you share from that experience, Slade, to that athlete that's 17, 18, 16, 19, 20, college player, or a young pro that's going through those challenges right now as they're listening to this, and that drugs and or alcohol is getting in the way of really true success and freedom that they can have on and off the field. Is there a message or something that you could share with them that obviously turn your life around?
Man, yeah, it's tough because it's like I'm trying to think of a short-winded. Young players, young adults, 40 years old, whatever it might be, the one lesson and thing that we have to do, and that that's kind of why the On the Path is the name of the podcast, is in order to get to the top, in order to have success, you have to stay on your path. You have to stay focused. You have to do that. One of the biggest things I try to tell kids, and it's hard to tell them that because I've been there. I've been that kid that didn't want to listen. Don't be blinded by temporary happiness. Because when you wake up the next day, if it's going out to the bars and you're chasing women or you're chasing whatever it might be, it's taking you away from your pursuit of what you want to do. You've devoted, if you're at that level and you're signed and you're in high school and you've devoted many, many years and many, many hours of your time to have a dream that you have. Don't lose it, because all it takes is one moment. It's all it takes is one moment, one poor decision, and I hope it never comes to that, but that's just the truth. I can leave this podcast right now, and when I leave, I could easily be killed on my way driving. That is something that I take into account very real, and it's very cheesy, but all we have is right now. So don't be distracted by. Put your blinders on, and you find your path, and you keep your eyes on that path, and you keep your eyes looking forward, because you're gonna fall, you're gonna get hit, you're gonna trip, whatever it is. Stand back up, keep your eyes on the path.
Live in day-tight compartments. It's so easy to look back at yesterday or look ahead for tomorrow, but so many people lose sight of just today.
No question.
Slade, you go through a tumultuous, first couple years as a pro, a lot of injuries. You mentioned you've had 7 surgeries, but the message here to that young player is perseverance. You didn't give up. It would have been easy to say, you know what, I've had enough of this. But you kept fighting through it. What was really driving you to keep coming back and going through those rehab assignments?
I think it was different each time. I'm very fortunate in this aspect now that I'm retiring and getting out of the game. Every surgery that I had, so when I was in high school and I was living out out of my truck, I stayed at the baseball field. That's where I stayed, and I stayed there because baseball was all I had. That was my whole life. My whole life was centered around baseball and football. Everything that I did as a child growing up was sports, driving, training, working out. Everything was baseball. And I think I was very fortunate now looking back at each surgery I had, as each surgery I had gave me that one extra step of having an identity outside of baseball. I used to be Slade Heathcott, the baseball player, and now I'm Slade Heathcott, the guy that used to play baseball. And there's a huge difference.
Let me take you back to May 20th, 2015. You make your major league debut. You get up to the big show with the New York Yankees, the most storied franchise in all of sports. That had to be special for you to get to that moment.
Man. Yeah, I still get emotional about it today. But, I got a call at 11:30 at night. I'm holding my son in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And mind you, this is 6 months after Dr. Andrews told me I'd never play another game in my life. Got this call. I'm holding my son, and I get told, when I first got told it, I was like, you're full of it. And then I was like, no, seriously, there's a car on the way. They'll be there first thing in the morning. So I actually debuted in a 9th inning pinch run for Teixeira in Washington. Not taking away because that was an awesome moment to be there. But the very next day in New York, I started in center field, and that will always be my debut.
Wow.
That was that moment when I took the field and they do roll call, and CeCe Sabathia was on the mound, and I remember the roll call starting, and it got to the point where it was really awkward because I couldn't pay them attention because CeCe's already on the mound, so it got really loud. And sitting there that day, now looking back, that was the moment in my life that I knew that my mission in life was to make this possible for as many people as possible. And what I mean by that is I want to help people achieve their dreams in life, because we all deserve the right, the chance, and the help to achieve what we want in life.
To be on one of the biggest stages at Yankee Stadium, New York, there's been so many great center fielders that have played in those pinstripes, playing for Joe Girardi, a longtime Yankee himself. What was it like, throughout the game and hear the fans, the roar of the crowd, and then post game? Can you recall some of those moments?
Man, yeah. Some of it just kind of flashes. The Yankees. The really cool thing that I've realized about the Yankees now, and people always realize all the big names, and that's kind of a downside when you're a younger guy, but at the same time, it's also a very good opportunity to learn a lot. And that's what I was able to do with that clubhouse, and Joe and Alex Rodriguez and Jeter and Sabathia, even younger Brian McCann, Gardy. Like, you keep going down that list, and there was just nothing but class act players that were there, and to be there. And after the game, you have, like, the press in New York is different. It's different. Like, I had 100 people surrounding me after the game. My first AB, I got like a hustle double off the bat, like shallow left field, kind of just hit it out there and sprinted out of the box, head first slide in a second to do it. So, like, that was a big, and that was always my thing, was I'm going to play hard, and I got that from Rusty. Like, that was one thing that I really took from playing with Rusty and watching his stuff, was Rusty played balls to the wall. And that was one thing that I always want to do for a lot of reasons. And, you know, my tattoo has a lot to do with it, but for all the single mothers out there, or dads that are working 2 or 3 jobs, or parents that are out there working multiple jobs just to put food on the table, for me not to play hard, for me it's disrespecting the game of baseball. It's disrespecting all the people that took time out of their day to go hit with me and to be my coach. It was disrespectful to the people that are out there busting their butt to give their family what they need. So it was always very important to me to be balls to the wall. And people always thought that was a lot of my injuries was because I just played all out. And I actually didn't have one injury on the field playing.
Now, less than a year ago, you're with the Oakland A's organization in spring training, going to make another go of it. You just recently decided to retire from the game. Take us through some of the decisions. You know, you're still a young man. It looked like you could step in the box right now and play the game. You're in great shape. I know you got a lot going on post-baseball now, and that led to part of your decision, and your son Kyson as well. But talk to us a little bit about the decision-making process to go ahead and retire at a young age.
You know, it got to a point where I always said I'm an all-out person, and Colossians 3:23 tells us, "In everything you do, do with all your heart to glorify the name of the Lord, not for men." And Colossians 3:23 and right now have always been huge to me since 2014 moving on, because one, right now is all we have. You know, we can't control the past, we can't control the future, but if we control now, we can influence our future. But in spring training, like, I could just tell that, you know, there was parts of me that, and it's normal as a baseball player when you're going through the lulls and downs to have these thoughts that cross in your head. But spring training, I'm killing it. I enjoyed it. The game of baseball just changed to me. The clubhouse was completely different. The guys that come into the game is just different. And, you know, the clubhouse camaraderie, you have a lot of people that are just out for themselves more so than ever. And that's understandable. I get that, but
yeah, the money is just so huge nowadays, and the egos kick in.
Yep. So yeah, I just kept my mind. You know, I have my son in Tampa, Kyson, and for me to be away from him, you know, it had to be for me to be a chance to play in the big leagues. And, you know, I thought this year was definitely going to be the year, and definitely could have been, and just wasn't in the cards. But that was the biggest thing, was if I'm going to keep playing, I'm going to have to go to Mexico, I'm going to have to go to DR, I'm going to have to play indie ball. And there's nothing wrong with indie ball whatsoever, but my time is valuable to me. And, you know, between just feeling like my heart wasn't completely there, I would never want to take the job of somebody that really wants to be there. I'd never want to keep playing or disrespect anybody that's out there. And I don't want to disrespect my son, because the time that I spend away from him has to be valuable, and it just wasn't.
Now, being drafted right out of high school, you didn't have an opportunity to go to LSU and work on your degree. You're now back in school at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University working on your degree. You've got your private pilot license, and you're following your own passion there. You've always wanted to fly. You started the podcast On the Path with Slade Heathcott, and you've got so much going on. If you could share with our audience some of the things that you're working on and some of the things that you're passionate about post-baseball.
Yeah, the biggest thing I'm passionate about, I told you, I realized in 2015 when I was standing in center field, and a little bit in 2010 when I went on my first mission trip. I knew two things between those two moments. I knew that my life would be dedicated to serving others, and I knew that children would be that path. So I've known in my whole And it got to a point in 2011, like I was tired of talking about something, so I finally was like, you know what, I've been talking about getting my pilot's license. I'm just going to go do it. So I was in high A Tampa. I would wake up at 7. I'd go to the airport. I'd fly from 8 to noon, do my classwork. I'd go to the field, and I would go play. So I'd do that every morning, and it took me 6 months, and I got my pilot's license. Then when I learned in 2000.